So we've got the Kospi bucking the trend of this morning, sitting above, like I said, at 3,600 points there, and it is up 50% year to date. So very important to note that it is actually one of the winners in this part of the world, and of course many are at record highs, and this is one of those markets that are very close to that record high level. And I think it's important to zoom in on the currency factor, though, because when we're talking about how this is the year of weak dollar story, well, surprise, surprise, the Korean won is not actually strengthening versus the U.S. dollar. In fact, it is actually opening at the weakest level since May, early May, or mid-May, I should say, of this year versus the U.S. dollar. So I think a couple of things here that, there could be some BOK expectations going forward because of slowing growth. And then there could be some concerns around tariff negotiations with the Trump administration. Remember, South Korea is pushing back against the idea of investing $350 billion in the U.S. Let's check in on chip makers because a lot happened over Chuseok holiday period, especially when it comes to that OpenAI and AMD deal, something that the market was not pricing in before the Chuseok holiday, and we've got a massive rally coming through. Samsung higher 5.6%, SK Hynix higher by more than 7% at this point in time. And remember, these South Korean chip makers do have very sort of multifaceted, deep relationship with AMD. So I think that is really the story. And more importantly here, that Samsung Electronics and AMD have been working together when it comes to the foundry business. It's not just about supplying high bandwidth memory chips for AI chips. So I think that is something that we need to think about. When chip makers are rallying, I wonder what is going on with the power names in South Korea. We're talking about power electrical equipment makers that export heavily to markets like the U.S. They tend to move in tandem with the whole AI narrative, and as you can see, green across the board. So, Marty, we've got South Korean markets coming back. Again, too bad. It was actually shut for many days to digest all these AI story, and there was some big rally that came through a couple of times over this over this period. But I think going forward, the story is the AI circular investing story that we talked about yesterday. Does that somehow validate, of course, the narrative around South Korean stocks and, of course, the chip computing demand?
Yeah, indeed. And, we're also talking about the question or the interesting possibility that, all these cross-shareholdings happening, everybody getting into bed with each other, whether that could at some stage also involve some of the key South Korean tech names, Samsung and Hynix. But, overall, this is a market. We had a guest on, remember, yesterday, Tim Mo from Goldman. This is a market that Goldman very much likes South Korea. Take a listen to this.
It's done well, and of course many investors are wondering, well, is it gone too far too fast, and should we still be optimistic? And we think the answer to that is yes. Of course, anytime a market goes up a lot, there may be some trading correction and so forth. That's the natural course of business. But the bigger picture for investors is looking forward over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. We think there's more upside. And the key reasons would be, one, that the market started its rally from very, very low valuations. And so even at last night's close, we're just trading 11 times forward earnings, right? Which is pretty much mid-cycle just for Korea, and of course low in absolute terms. Now, we think that the bigger story in Korea is this upward re-rating, the narrowing of the so-called Korea discount. And there's objective evidence which supports the idea that this time it actually is happening.
Did you hear that, Chery? Remember that, Tim saying that? I mean, that's the thing that really got me. Even after rocketing 50%, 50%, this is a market which is still trading at 11 times. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very, very cheap. I mean, it was one of the biggest losers of 2024. So yes, the valuation was very, very attractive. But, going into this whole, Trump, tariff negotiations, I don't know. I think the Korean won's action is telling something. But, I'm a doubter. I'm a skeptic here. But, a lot of our guests who came on our show saying, this is the moment. Korea can sort of fast track the value up story. South Koreans tend to do things faster than perhaps the Japanese, and they might actually get there. I don't know. It's still very, very cheap. The question is it cheap for a reason, or is it different this time around?
Yeah, 14.22 and change on dollar KRW as we speak.